this is kind of almost like a selfish question, because I'm having written one book myself. I'm still sort of, how to put it, struggling a little bit with how one balances the creativity, the writing, with all the marketing things as an independent author needs to do. And I think even, I'm probably correct in saying, even with Andrew, who's with an independent publisher, I'm sure you have to do a lot of your own self-promotion and do all the talks and things like this. I know Helena is more down the route I'm going down, but is a lot more advanced than me on this. So really I wanted to perhaps open up and start with ask you both the same question. Helena, how do you balance the creativity and the writing with all the marketing that's necessary these days?
The schedule. I think that's the short answer. You have to have a schedule every day. So I tend to, I try to start my writing at 6 o'clock in the morning, because my brain is the brightest and best, especially at this age. So I start writing at 6 and I sort of finish at midday or 11 o'clock or something like that. And then after that, I do something to sort of change hats, if you like, to become the publisher. So I either have early lunch, or go out, or go to a gym or something, and then afternoons I tend to do the other things. So, but that's the ideal. It doesn't always happen. There are days when I kick myself, I haven't written anything, and I have to actually then I do have this. I know that the only way I'm going to be able to carry on doing what I'm doing is to write. So if I don't write, and I market the books that I have, I'm going to come to a dead end at some point. So I have to carry on writing. So that's the most important thing. So so I do make myself just to sit in front of that computer and just write.
And have you always been a morning person, or have you forced yourself to be a morning person because of the structure?
Actually, I started it last year. My husband's laughing because I'm not a morning person at all. But I think that's relative. You know, my sister. My sister wakes up at 12, so you know I'm a bit better. She's in the restaurant business, so she's
okay.
But no, I forced myself, actually. I don't know if people know here about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. And last year I did it, was it the year before? No, year before. I did it in November. And, it's in November. And I thought the only way I'm going to be able to do this, if I wake up at 6 o'clock every morning and I wrote 2,000 or 3,000 words a day. It did nearly kill me, because I did it every day. So I did it 7 days a week. But that sort of got me into that, and I realised what a huge reserve that is. That if you can make yourself wake up in the morning and write, you know, I was in my dressing gown. I didn't even have a shower or anything. I just straight into the computer, write, and then my life sort of started after I started writing, or days started.
Another sort of question, sort of dipping into this, you know, the little bit sort of differences between someone who's pure self-publishing and someone who has, you know, an independent publisher behind them. I just wonder what, you know, if you could both sort of talk about, maybe from those perspectives, the strengths and the weaknesses, if you think of doing it that way, and perhaps in a sort of another tag-on question, if you thought back to the point when you first published your first book, what would you do different now compared to then?
Good question.
Well, I self-published my first book, and after that I said I'd never do that again. I found it incredibly difficult, the front-end stuff. I mean, you know, I knew about production, so that wasn't bad, I could do that. What I found very difficult was finding distribution and to get it into bookstores. And at the time that I self-published, which was 2010, I think, self-publishing wasn't well regarded, really. Mm-hmm. For instance, you aren't eligible for most of the major literary prizes. I don't know if that's still true, but you...
Yeah, it is. I mean, slowly breaking, but most of them you're not.
So that's a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So I was lucky, or whatever, to find an independent publisher who was willing to do all that front-end stuff, distribution, all the rest of it. But one still is expected to do the same amount of promotion and publicity. So that's the difference between the two scenarios, I think. Maybe I was a little foolish, because having set up a distribution system, you'd think, well, you've done the hard bit, so keep going. But my distributor went bust.
Oh dear, okay.
So it meant finding that would have had to find another one. So.
And what about from your point of view, Helena, in
Well,
terms of self-publishing? What would you do different?
What do I do different? Well, when I published The Englishman, which was my first self-published book, and over the first night, so US audiences bought 500 books. I had it for 99 cents, but all the same, it's quite a good result. But I have no idea who those 500 people are, because I didn't even think about the fact that I could have a mailing list. So I think I've heard this so many times. Mark Dawson and all those self-publishing gurus out there say the same thing, that I wish I'd then thought about it, building a mailing list. That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good. I do recommend it.
Can I open up questions then to the audience? I'll come to you in a minute, just because but there's a guy at the back there who had a question.
Yeah, it was because it already came up. I was going to ask about what other sort of was it Scrivener? And
Yes.
if there was anything else, writing applications that you guys used. But I moved on with that because the conversation moved on. But I wanted to ask Andrew about what was the starting point for this book? Was it Trump? Was it?
No, Trump wasn't around, because this book took 4 years from beginning to end. But Farage was around, and there was a lot of that going on, and I could see the similarities to the 1960s, the amount of immigration into Britain, and the kinds of things that were being bandied about immigrants. So I hate to say I was lucky, but I guess I was, because then Trump came into the scene and the whole thing became even more extreme. So that was.
We've even got time for a couple more questions. So the gentleman there, and then the lady behind after.
I don't know if anybody else was there, but I attended the Guardian Masterclass a couple of weeks ago called Plotting Your Novel run by a guy called Doc X, I think his name is. Apparently a best-selling writer. But I do strongly recommend it. I found it extremely helpful in organising your thinking. And so if that comes up again, I would most strongly organise, because I was trying to planning my current novel by writing chapters on cards and or putting headings on cards and trying to shift them around. And I found I couldn't get anywhere with that. But this guy gave us some actually very, very good ideas about how to sort that out and get your key questions sorted, which I strongly recommend. Anyway, I found it extremely helpful, because I was floundering rather in the way you said you started.
And what was that? That was a Guardian Masterclass.
It was a Guardian Masterclass.
And do you not remember the
Plotting your novel and how to enjoy your writing a novel or something.
Okay.
And the guy was
Enjoy.
but he, I'd never heard of him before, but apparently he's sold, bestsellers. But it was very, very interesting. It was a different approach from what I've heard, and I just found it very useful.
Interesting.
There was the lady behind there who had a question. Hi there.
My question was if you guys have any advice for new writers, like if there are 3 things that you know now that you wish you knew starting out.
Well, I would say the mailing list is the one, and then think about your plot a lot and your characters a lot, and make sure they're flawed and that the plot is interesting, and there's the arc of the story, so that and study that, how to make a book interesting, and third one I think is know that it takes a long time. Patience. What about you?
Well, there's the old thing of write what you know, which is true. I mean, if you have some knowledge or experience of something, a person or a situation, it's much easier to write about than having to do a lot of research. Now, there are people, obviously Diary of a Geisha was a book that was written by a white man living in Manhattan about a geisha before the Second World War, I think. And it was a fantastic book. But it was something he was passionate about. So either you know about it or you're passionate about it. If you try to write about something because you think it's going to be a success, it probably won't be. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And Helena's right, it's going to take a while. But just keep writing. I mean, sit down. Somebody else, I think it was Margaret Drabble said, there's no magic. You put your bum on the chair and you You
I think
do
that's
it.
Hemingway, wasn't
Was
it?
it Hemingway? Was it?
And I think he used a very stronger word.
Maybe many people have said it, but it's true. You know, you can't. You just have to do it. And some days you don't feel like it, and you'll do anything other than sit down in that chair. But you have to do it.
So, because you said it's loosely based or inspired by your own life, how did you differentiate and make sure you didn't merge too much into your own life? And so, was the characters hybrids, like similar to you, and then sort of fictional? How did you make the boundaries between the two?
That's exactly what I the characters, I combined quite a lot of characters, and I also made the stories, you know, the timeline shorter, and certainly in the two books after The Englishman, all of those things, very few of those things actually happened. So I made up quite a lot, but so I write, actually on my blog, I write a lot about this because it's one of those things that people are quite interested in. How do you fictionalize your own life? And there are several sort of tips, but now from memory, one of them is the characters, combining characters, because also you don't want to hurt anybody, so you know you want to make sure that they don't recognize themselves. And shorten timeline, and also the starting point is quite crucial, because you know if you're writing about your own life, you don't really usually want to start from I was born or she was born, you know, because everybody is born at some point, unless you're born in the middle of the Pacific or something. That's a different matter. But so you know, start from an interesting point of view. But I've got 10 tips, but I can't remember all of them now.
Well, I think I'm going to have to wind things up there. But if you guys are hanging around for a few minutes after,
Sure.
can people
Oh,
bend your ears?
definitely,
Sure,
yeah,
great.
sure.
Okay, well, can we just have a round of applause again, please, for Helena and Andrew?